Hello, hello. Welcome to the Ageless Lounge. And this week we've got the fabulous Stephanie Odell of Celebrate the Gray. She is like the go to guru of supporting influencers, models in the 50 plus, maybe a little less than that, but 50 plus for sure. And really speaking to brands about why they need to embrace speaking to us on our terms. Welcome, welcome, Stephanie. How are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me. Always excited to talk to you, Robin.
Oh, I love having you on here. Let's start with what everybody's come to know as our go to question when we start these off. What does it mean to you when I say I believe you're an ageless woman?
I when age just means power to me. Power, and I believe in my power, and I want to show people my power.
I absolutely love that. Some people get confused when we say ageless and they tie it too much into like trying to strive for our youth. Absolutely not. I always tell everybody it's more of that mindset of our age doesn't define our relevance. So I love that for you, it speaks of power. I love that piece. Share a little bit about why you started Celebrate the Gray. Because when I first met you, it was through some connections that said, oh, you've got to talk to Stephanie. She's doing amazing work in this community. Tell me what it was that made you want to jump in and start Celebrate the Gray?
Well, it was when I was doing fashion styling, and my older clients started to say to me, I feel invisible. And that was my starting point. I started thinking that there was a need for a fashion line that was specific for the 50 plus woman. And I really realized it was more not fashion. So I started a blog because I didn't know exactly what that statement meant. I knew what it's meant for me because I was starting to feel invisible also, but I wanted to talk to her and find out, what does it mean to you to be invisible, and are you invisible? I think so many times we forget to talk to the end user. So I wanted to talk to the end user, that 50 plus woman, and find out what the reality of her aging was, and if she felt there was a need for a fashion line. And really, what I found was not so much there was a need for a fashion line, there was a need to update the visuals and narratives we're served as we age. They're not inclusive, they don't show us. So it's very hard to be what you don't see. So if you don't see yourself represented, it's hard to imagine starting a second career, wearing that bright green dress, um, going on holiday by yourself, letting your hair go gray. So I felt the power was really in updating the visuals and narrative around aging. And that was my
Absolutely.
starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. That's part of why this magazine was born because I was wanting to embrace my silver hair or gray, whatever shade it was going to be. And again, didn't see the visuals. I'd be in the salons and there's always magazines because that was before pre COVID, the magazines of styles. And, you're flipping through pages, but there was nothing that showed gray hair at my 51 at that time, thinking to myself, like, I'm going to rock this thing. I'm not going to look like some little old woman sitting in a rocking chair, but there weren't visuals. So that's exactly why the magazine was born, to give the other option that, beauty is defined by us, not by anything else. But it does help, like you said, to be able to relate when you see images that represent more of what you think you're going to be or looking to be. That's uplifting. So I think that's a powerful thing that you recognize that right off the bat. And yes, I think a lot of women feel invisible, and I love what you're doing to help that. Can you kind of like you work with models, you work with influencers, you work with brands. Can you give us kind of like a quick synopsis between each one? Like how do you work with each group to help them, as I'm going to say, kind of this whole combating, like how do we own our age, right? And own it proudly. And how are you working with those three groups in a sense to connect the pieces together?
Well, the many of the models in the beginning, I put an ad in Craigslist saying, first two things I did in the beginning. One, I reached out to anyone gray that was modeling that I could find and asked them, what do you get paid? What is your contract like? How much are you getting jobs? Just to really educate myself around what was current, what was happening. And that was 8 years ago, 7 years ago. I always lose track. And they were super generous with information, shared contracts. They were and super supportive of the idea of starting an agency.
Yeah.
And in this, I didn't know how to start an agency, so I asked for help. That was the biggest thing that I had to learn how to do. So in the beginning, I put an ad in Craigslist. I got a handful of women, and I kind of was very honest and transparent. I said, I'm not really sure what I'm building, but I just know this, that I knew the mission of the work was change the visuals and narratives around aging.
Yeah.
That, so everything that we do has to answer that. I just got fed I'll talk about it later, but it was an anti-aging product. And I said, sorry, we can't work with you. So really holding true to those values. So in the beginning, I seeked out, I went on Instagram, sought out women. I went on Instagram, I would DM them, I'm building this brand. Would you be interested in joining? And slowly started joining. I mean, I remember someone reached out because it was all white women and
Hmm.
said, there's no diversity here. But then it became my mission to really be more inclusive, size inclusive, race inclusive, and really worked on that aspect. So in the beginning, I was seeking women, and now women find me. I did a Google search about my gray hair. I feel so powerful with hair, and people always say, "Oh, you should model. Your hair is so beautiful." I did a Google search. I found you. So now women are finding me. Women that modeled in their 20s, and I want to get back to it. I feel so powerful in my aging. Join are very in tune to what our mission is, and really want to empower other women to think about aging differently.
Yeah.
That's where the starting point was. And it was gray hair because it's the first thing they're told as we age. You need to dye your hair if you.
Yeah.
So, as you said, redefining what's beauty and who's defining beauty, and why can't we define beauty for ourselves?
Right.
So that was the starting point. And then so many women reached out wanting to be part. I'm slowly going gray. My gray, celebrate the gray. My gray is definitely my body. I was an athlete all my life, still am an athlete, but my body looks completely different. So for me, it's always like if I saw myself in Nike ads, I would think, oh, you can be an athlete at any age. So, the women that came, some weren't gray. So I branched into influencer and content creator
Hmm.
space. Also, brands were saying, look, during the pandemic, their budgets changed drastically. They couldn't afford full photo shoots anymore. As you know, money is
Right.
very limited. As for us to try to advertise to the 50 plus woman, it's very
Right.
limited.
Yep.
So then I created that space, one for women to create a revenue stream for themselves, and also to create a affordable resource for brands to access the 50 plus women, to take away that barrier. We can't find her, we can't afford her.
Yeah.
So always trying to create a product that creates revenue for the women that are involved in the collective, and then also create a cost effective resource for brands so they don't have any to work.
Yeah. How would you say, like, as I'm listening to what you're talking about, and I'm thinking about some of the things that have gone through my mind, there's this image of what aging is supposed to look like, right? And you were saying you had a company that came to you with an anti-aging product. And I've had a few people where like sometimes they lose the click that we're not asking you not to also speak to the 20, 30, 40 year olds that your product and work to, but also to attract us. I don't want to see a model who is 20 telling me she has no wrinkles because she uses this cream, because when I was 20, I didn't have any wrinkles. I want to see somebody who looks like me, or at least in my age range, telling me, "Hey, this product really worked." Um, so how do you find that, like, that the momentum with the brands, are they starting to get more receptive to you? I still stumble across some people that will say, "Hey, we'd like to put hair coloring in your magazine." And I'm the same way as you. My mission is to let everybody define beauty for themselves, but I am a magazine that celebrates natural silver, gray, white hair. So I can't, in all goodness of my heart, put in a magazine that then tells you an ad that tells you to cover it up, right? So are you finding that the brands are starting to lean more into the receptive part of using us, or are we still struggling with that piece with the brands from your perspective?
I think that brands do brands are starting to slowly catch up. there's still the perception and reality don't match. So, and a lot of
Mhm.
the decision makers are young. Their whole perception is based on their own personal experience with
Yeah,
aging.
yeah,
So it's hard to rewrite that in one's mind if they haven't had experience.
yeah.
Um, the brands doing it well are those brands, and I'm sure you've found this too, started by the 40 plus, 50, 60, 70-year-old
Mhm.
woman that's just fed find what she needs. So she's starting her own product or her own. So they understand the importance of inclusion. You know, the menopause space has blown open the
Yes, yes,
conversation.
yes.
So I think that stage will be across categories. You know, it will be into fashion, into fitness, into wellness, because now VC money realizes, oh, this woman has money. Why have we not been mark,
Right,
targeting her? So
right. Well, and I think
yes, so
it's I think it's a big show of hands that, like you just said, it's a lot of 40 plus women starting businesses, 50, 60, 70 plus year old women starting new chapters in their lives. That shows that, like the old saying of, you hit a certain age and suddenly you start going downhill or suddenly things start slowing down is not necessarily true. I meet more women now that are in their 60s and 70s that are telling me they're just starting. Like they're not coming to their end. They're getting started and revved up. Um, so I think it's really exciting to see that, yes, it's women our age starting to create that space that says, hey, we're going to cater to us. But at the same time, also shows that younger generation that that fear of aging slowing us down is not necessarily realistic, right? And maybe for some, I mean, let's we all age differently, right? Just like our hair shades all change, are all different. Like you're going natural and you're not as gray as say I am going natural, right? So everything's very different. But I love the fact that we're kind of sending the message now to that younger audience that you don't have to be scared of aging. Like it isn't scary unless you make it scary.
don't buy into the messaging we've been served all our lives. That there really is this. I, I was having a conversation with somebody and they were saying, "Oh, I don't have anything to offer." And I said, "What about your wisdom and your experience to somebody that there's this very you have value and because you don't believe you have value, that's what's projected onto younger people or society. But if all of a sudden you view what's
Yes.
valuable and you put it out as valuable, that's how it's perceived. So it's as much on us as
Yes. Yes.
on decision makers, younger people, you know, taking that opportunity to have conversation
Yeah.
with younger people to kind of tell your journey
Yeah.
and share what you're doing. That you started a business in your 50s, you didn't know how to do it. All those things are important for younger people. And also those younger people seeing, oh, she's not doing the Botox. She's not, again, back to what you said, everyone's journey is different.
Right.
But, you know, I
Right.
think you and I were having a conversation a while back, and one of my biggest things is to go out without makeup. Like I used to always
Mhm.
think, oh God, I'm gonna look so people are gonna not talk to me. I'm like, that is my own story in my head. Let go of
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
just be.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so important, like when you're saying the young and old, and we have to be responsible. It's like we need to have that multi-generational acceptance, right? Where it's not like you're in cliques where only the young people are hanging out together, older people are only hanging out. I mean, we have to have that in the, especially in the workplace, I think, because everybody gleans from one another, right? Like the person is going to have some wisdom that maybe the younger doesn't have, and the younger person may have some newer ideas that aren't popular. So you've got to have that acceptance of that. We are a multi-generational world and that each piece of that is part of the puzzle, right? Everybody brings something to the table. And the days of counting somebody out based on they're too young or they're too old has to go away, right?
Ageism works both ways.
Yes.
How often people are told, you're too young, you don't understand, you don't have the experience.
Yeah.
Well, take a moment and have a conversation. And it's very enlightening to hear their, you know, younger people's thoughts. I had this experience during Black Lives Matter with my son, and you know his viewpoint was much different than mine, and I kind of was saying, no, you don't understand, you haven't been through the things we've been through. But then when I gave value to what he had to say, I understood it more, and didn't
Yeah.
miss it. And I think it's important for us, if we don't want to be dismissed, we can't dismiss younger people or even older people than us. I mean, I find this with my
Yeah.
mother that gets dismissed. Oh, I tried to call them and they wouldn't return my call, or they didn't answer me, or, you know, I see that so often that she gets dismissed and she gets
Yes.
elderly, so she isn't capable. Well, we put that label on her, so all of a sudden she believes she's not capable. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to break
Yeah, it's really
those boxes.
yeah, yeah, they are hard to break out, aren't they? They are hard when they've been so intergenerationally like bred into us from the time we're kids
Yep.
and to now. And like you said, I mean, I can remember people not taking me seriously because I was too young. And now sometimes it's oh, well, you're how old are you? And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like I'm happy to celebrate. I'm gonna be 58 in August, and I am happy to shout that out. I'm thrilled that I'm here. I've had a major car accident that I shouldn't have walked away from, and I did. You know, there's things that like there's reason to celebrate age and not be afraid of it. And so I feel like when there are groups and agencies like yourself that are empowering women to step into that spotlight, right? Like there's so many women I'm meeting that never would have thought of themselves as models
Hmm.
and now have thriving careers as models
Exactly.
because they just had that. Yeah,
That moment.
it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and they had that moment. I'm doing an Instagram live coming up with two of the models, one in LA and one in New York, and they both had that moment like, I think I could do more. What's next for me? And they reached out, and they're both successful and doing it and putting themselves out there and doing things they never imagined. And how thrilling is that for me to see, but for them, you know,
Yeah, when is that live coming up? Let's give it a shout out if we can. When's that live coming out?
week. So it'll probably be after this. When does this come live?
This will drop actually, so we're recording, but it'll drop tomorrow. So it will be in time for
Okay.
the live.
Or Friday at 12 o'clock Pacific time and 3 o'clock. It'll be on my Instagram. So I'll be posting tomorrow. I'll start posting, but it's
And that's at Celebrate the Gray, right? At Celebrate the Gray on Instagram.
I
Okay.
give women just again, a kernel of a thought to put into your brain. What's possible? If I didn't have my friends and family and society telling me this is what I'm supposed to do, what would you be possible of doing? If I always say, if you didn't know how old you are, what would you do differently?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we would,
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah.
yeah, we'd live
Well, it's
differently.
like, where would you travel if it's yeah, it's that same thing. If age and money weren't things that were controlling us, what would we be doing, or where would we be living?
Yeah.
And I think truly that with age, I mean, I find like I have had both my hips replaced, and people will go, "When did you have your hips replaced?" I'm like, "I was 47." Like, wow, that's so young. And in one way, yeah, it was young to have hips replaced. But again, that was just part of my DNA. That's what, it was a hereditary thing that happened. But yet it hasn't slowed me down. I mean, I started paddleboarding after having my hips replaced. Um, it didn't stop me. I didn't let it stop me. There's things I'm careful with. Yes. Like squats. I don't do regular squats. I do sumo squats because those are safer to not pop out hips. But like I didn't let it slow me down. Whereas some people were like, "Oh, you got your hips replaced." Oh, like they thought it was gonna make me kinda not be able to ride my bike or not be able to rollerblade, and it's like, it didn't stop those things. So, like, we have to stop being afraid of what might be and not take the chance to see what it is.
And two things when you're saying that, I'm thinking one, society probably and your friends and family, oh, you're too young. You should wait till it's really bad, right? And you can't, but it's the norm
Yeah,
to do it younger. And then two, to,
yeah,
you know, push again the don't not falling into societal, oh, you got to be careful. I mean, and we do this to elderly, right? Don't, oh, don't do that. You might
yeah,
hurt yourself. All of a sudden you start limiting yourself. And you're setting
right.
a standard for the possibilities.
Yes. Yes, I love when I see someone like we do a lot of hiking out here because I'm in Colorado, and I love it when I see somebody who is obviously older than I am, and they are hiking at a faster pace than I am. I love that because that energizes me knowing, okay, it doesn't have to slow me down, right? When you see somebody walk by you and they're trucking along and you get talking with them, the one gentleman told us he was like 78, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you've gotta be kidding." He's like, "No," and I never would have guessed that, but he was vibrantly living at 78, hiking up this mountain in Colorado and passing me. It's like, "Oh my gosh, he passed us, that was awesome." And he got up and he was coming back down before we had still gotten up to the top, and I loved it because my thought was, here is somebody that shows exactly what is possible when you believe in possibility.
When you don't put barriers up.
I mean, he wasn't gonna let age stop him.
Well, it's interesting
Yes, yes.
when
Well,
I blog, I just want to share one story. I started the blog. One of the women I spoke
yeah.
to, I was hiking, same thing, and I started hiking with this woman. And, she's trekking, and we get up to the top, and when I started the blog, I would just go stop people in the grocery store, wherever I was, and I saw someone that inspired me, I would stop. And I always said, they would end the conversation with, "Thank you so much. You made my day." So I realized how important it is to be.
Yeah.
So I said to her, "Oh my God, can I ask you more about yourself? How old you are? How long you've been hiking?" And she said, "Well, I'm in my 70s, but my hiking group thinks I'm in my 50s. And if they know I'm in my 70s, they'll put limitations on what I can do." And I went, "Wow, we need to." And then first, my
Yeah.
market, like, "Oh my God, you need to I ad, and you need to say just that to make people realize how
Yeah.
many barriers and limitations we put on people because of their age."
Yes. Yes. I'm so excited. I want to share with people, Stephanie is going to join us in September when we do our Silverhood Sisterhood experience in Estes Park, Colorado. And I'm excited to have you come and talk about how to really own our age and help break some of those limiting beliefs, right? Because that's what it is. It really is limiting beliefs that have been placed on us. And we want to celebrate. And the reason we're doing this event for the second year in a row is to help women embrace it so strongly. I mean, last year we had women walking away coming in feeling like they were kind of timid and kind of feeling like, oh, they're older now. And they came out and go, wait a minute, I'm rocking this now. I am a sexy silver-haired woman. Like they just came out so much stronger and then went on to do some really fun projects that I'm having fun watching that started because they got that little spark of belief because they were surrounded by other women that were going, yes, we may be aging, but we get to define it. And that's what I love. And so I'm excited that you're going to be coming and sharing. Um, if you had like it's so hard because I don't want to say one thing, right? Because there's so many things that accrue to it. But what would you say would be like the top two things you would say to a woman that tells you, like, I'm kind of struggling with my identity right now, right? I feel like I'm old, or I feel like nobody, like that invisible piece. I feel invisible. What are like the two things you would tell them to help switch that, maybe help that click switch for them a little bit?
Well, I think the biggest thing is community. I know when I was starting my journey, the community I was in didn't see the version of myself that I saw. And it's really hard to think about doing something differently when you don't have somebody as your cheerleader. So, take volunteer, take a class, go to an event, find a networking event. I started going to networking events and groups.
Yeah.
Read, read some books, go. Instagram is great to finding women that are inspiring, that, and I say to everyone that joins Celebrate the Gray, be vocal and visible about who you are and what you're doing and how old you are, because my story won't resonate with somebody, but your story will. And she's out there sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out, how do I step in? So, if you see someone that
Yes.
inspires you, reach out to them and you'll be shocked. I would say 90% of the time people respond back to me. Um, and just take one step. Don't think about what the end looks like. Just take one thing that you feel capable and confident doing right now. And it may be just finding a group of people that see you differently or see the version of yourself that you kind of have a small inkling of in your head. And it's going to be that
Yes.
one day you will say out loud the thing that you're thinking in your head that you've been holding on to, thinking, "Oh God, I wish I could do this." That one day you will say it out loud and it will start to manifest.
Yeah. And isn't it beautiful when it does? I mean, all women, I mean, you and I have both met amazing women in our journeys that are doing just that, right? They finally owned it, they finally stepped into it, and they're helping change as we move forward. They're helping change the narrative around aging, the narrative around beauty. The It's not necessary to have to get up every morning. I mean, 20-year-old Robin was up every morning putting on that makeup. She was not going anywhere without the full makeup, the full curls. Now Robin's like, huh, okay, like, do I have makeup on for today? No, I think I used, no, I take that back. I have a little bit of eyeliner on to make my eyes pop out a little bit better, but like, and a little bit of my lips moisturizer, but I don't have anything else on my skin, like foundation, any of that stuff, because it just doesn't matter. And I love it that I
Right.
am now confident enough that I don't feel like I have to please anybody with that stuff, right? It's a
Yeah.
beautiful, whatever.
We,
I don't want to say butterfly, but it's a beautiful effect of coming into our own.
and who are we trying to please? We have to kind of peel back and where, and who and where messages get originated. Um, a lot of it's based out of the 1950s by men that were in offices with their ideal women in their head. So, when you start to see
Yeah.
women our age not wearing makeup, and gets normalized for you, and it becomes easier to accept. So that's the goal for us, is to normalize seeing an older person in advertising.
Right, right. I love what you're doing. I absolutely love it. I will say, I love when you said that you share, you'll go up to somebody and tell them, what it is that they've inspired you about, and it makes their day. Because I've had that experience too. I'm jokingly going to say that you're my sister stalker, because I will see people in the grocery store with silver hair, and I'm going up to them to like, I just want you to know you have beautiful silver hair. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, thanks. Or like yeah, I'm always doing it. And then I said, well, I Tangle Silver magazine. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense. I'm like, I'm not really trying to stalk you, but I am, because you've got beautiful silver hair, and I just want you to know that. And then there's other times I'll just walk by somebody and just go, you have beautiful silver hair, and they just like light up, and I continue on. I don't introduce myself. It's just that quick little, hey, you've got gorgeous hair, and it just, if if more of us just kind of did that, spoke it out a little bit, like if we're feeling better about it too, just that simple word to somebody else that you see, rather you go up and introduce yourself or not, just that simple comment of, it's like the whole concept. If you smile, most likely people will smile back at you, right? So if we pass that along, that it's okay and that somebody looks beautiful, so many people I think don't hear the word beautiful, or they don't think of themselves as beautiful, right? But if you share that, you might just get that switch going for them, where they start really looking at themselves a little bit differently.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was just having a conversation with a friend, and we were talking about how important it is as we age to support each other and celebrate each other and see each other. Because you just never know what people are going through. There's a lot. I'm dealing with older parents. I feel like there's a lot, and the world today is not as joyful as and it's that little moment
Yeah.
that you take to tell someone you see them can be super impactful.
Yes. And, I know we keep saying it's a multi-generational thing, but I think especially when it comes to women, we need to feel seen, right? I mean, everybody needs to be seen, but I think older women especially, we come to this space where, yeah, we want to be seen, and we want to feel like people hear us and understand us,
Yeah.
and still find us, worthy of, I don't even want to use the word worthy. Want to find us, what's the word I'm looking for, Stephanie? Come up with a word for me. Just valuable, relevant still.
That we're a part of a society, that we're deemed important and valuable in society. I
Yeah.
One thing when you're saying about seeing older women, another really powerful thing we can do as women when we see younger women, and complimenting them and seeing them, and
Yep.
build that bridge between older and younger, that, oh, she sees me. I haven't known, like, I've had this happen many times when I've talked to younger people, or I've had calls, and they said our conversation made me go and look at my mother and aunt differently and realize how beautiful they
Nice.
are. So I think that that's also an important part of the change.
Conversation. I would 100% agree with that. I love it. Like, we have a mother-daughter duo coming up, Southern Belle Hat coming in. I'm gonna give them a shout out right now. They're also gonna be within September. Mother-daughter, again, it's beautiful to watch the interactions that take place, but it does make you start, like, when I watch their relationship, I look at my daughters and mine, and I'm like, I'm so glad that we are as close as we are as well. But it gives you, like, I look at my mother, I look at my grandmother. My grandmother's the reason why silver was never something I was necessarily afraid of until I hit 30s and let all of the society junk get in there. Because my grandmother is beautiful and white. I don't remember her any other way, and I never thought of her as old. She was just the most beautiful, caring woman I knew. So I love that, like, yes, we have to be sure we talk to everybody because I love that you get inspired somebody to look at their mother and aunt a little bit differently. Because sometimes we get caught up in the, oh, that's my mother, or oh, that's oh, they're that age, right? So we kind of discredit, maybe not even intentionally, but we just kind of think, oh, they don't get now. They don't get where we're at now. And so I think those conversations are super important to continue. And again, that multi-generational, let's push that, the multi-generational acceptance of each other and the value that we bring to the table.
Right. Knowing you have value. They have value, you have value. Don't be afraid to express the
Yeah.
have. Not to tell them
Yeah.
things, but to learn from each other.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and we'll wrap things up, and maybe we'll have you come back another time, and we'll dive in deeper because I feel like I could pick questions for you all day long, but we don't want to keep everybody on here longer than we need to. Tell people how they can find you if they're interested in learning more about what you're looking for models or influencers. Give us a quick synopsis of where we can find you and how they reach out to you if they're interested in that.
Great, thank you. Instagram is Celebrate the Gray, and Gray's with an A. Website, same. You can, and I have a link tree on my Instagram so you can find all the important links. And if you're interested in joining the collective, the Celebrate the Gray collective, there's 3 ways. Modeling, we do require gray or going gray and no facial plastic surgery. Or influencer content creation space of the brand. Those are for women that aren't gray or going gray or are gray, but have a social media following of 1,000 or more. And then we also have a private Facebook group that if you don't fall into either of those categories, or if you fall into one or two or all, that you can meet the other women. And I always say women join on a spectrum. Some women join that are already modeling and just want to find more work. Or they are thinking about aging differently and they need to be inspired, and they meet someone within the Facebook group and they take that one little step towards something new. So it's wherever you're at on your spectrum of, am I aging
Yeah.
powerfully as I could, and is this my story or somebody else's story? It's kind of how I always present.
Yeah.
um, and you can DM me if you have questions on Instagram. I answer all my DMs. And yeah, I talk to everybody that's interested in joining because I really want them to understand who we are as an agency. We're a mission-driven agency. If women are looking to be a full-time model, we're not quite there, as you know. The brands have not quite stepped up, but we're, getting some amazing opportunities.
Yeah, well, we're making an impact, and I think that's important. If you're watching this right now and you are on the fence, right? You're maybe silver curious, aging curious, reach out to either one of us because that's what we love to share. We want to help embrace you. We want to help encourage you. Stephanie has an amazing collective. You'll actually meet a couple of those women that actually will be at the sisterhood experience as well that I did not know were part of the collective until I already had spoken with them about joining us, which is really
Oh,
fun. And just I'm sorry, I didn't catch that,
that
Stephanie.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. But again, reach out to us, reach out to Stephanie. She has some wonderful words of wisdom to share with you as in reference to how to own your aging. And join us in September if you want to get a chance to meet her in person here in Colorado. Thanks for coming by. Thank you, Stephanie, so much for spending some time with me today.
Thanks, Robin. Always good to talk to you.